All right. Welcome to the AFE Member Spotlight. Our member spotlight this month is Fran Rabuck. So, Fran Rabuck is an active AFE member and provides outstanding influence and contributions to the Ask the Experts community. As a thanks, we're featuring him in the AFE Member Spotlight. So, Fran is an avid emerging technology specialist who has a career of leading organization research efforts, developing pilot applications, and evangelizing future technology. He currently works with Agile Handover on the total integration and normalization of data for all FM data systems, is the associate editor for the journal, works with the Global Facility Management Group, and is deeply involved in the metaverse technology and digital twins technology. Yeah, thank you, Fran, for being here today.
Great. It's great to be here. I'm interested in sort of the discussion here.
Yeah. So just to start us off, how did you get into the facility management industry?
Well, I didn't start out that way. In fact, I'm sure I might not even end that way. Um, when I was in college, I majored in mathematics, and I just felt that it gave me the most flexibility to do things. So one of my first jobs was at Thomas Jefferson University, and it was really more for the technology coordinator for PCs that were coming in. But then I got put on a project to work with the building maintenance group, as they called it then. And they needed to select a system and install it. And it happened to be on a Prime Mini computer, and it was using Autodesk at the time. And uh, it was interesting just working with them and learning, their business. They were focused on space management and just work order management, the sort of core guts of what facility managers do. And so I worked with them for a while, and they basically, took over, and I moved on to work with other projects. It wasn't until much later in my career that I started doing more stuff in engineering. So I mean that's sort of this short entry point, and then I have sort of a whole other road of pit stops that I made through my career at different places. But all of the things that I've done were always involved with data in some way, fixing problems or creating something new. Uh, and that's been my strength. That's been the fun of really working with FM people, because it's a big changing space now, and it's evolving very quickly. Requires new talents and new thinking and new leadership. It's just innovation, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm with all that evolution and change that you've seen, what is the project that you've enjoyed working on most in your career?
Wow. Um, in general, the biggest thing that I enjoy working with is in speaking and communicating and working in groups. I've spoken at many conferences, hundreds of conferences, literally through my career, from some of the big ones, Comdex and CES, to very focused ones in engineering, IEEE, and also local things. But the biggest project was actually running a full conference and recruiting everybody for the Robo Universe conference. Now, that's not necessarily an FM project, but on the FM side, I think the most interesting stuff was a lot of the things that I did at Bentley and the things that I'm currently doing with a startup. It's great working with startups, and Agile Handover is one of the companies that I'm working with now, and they have great product, and it's turning out to be one of the most. Every new project becomes the most exciting. But I did many other things. Typically, I came in to either fix things or start things that weren't working, and mainly on the information side, not necessarily the FM space. But it's been every project has always been sort of a joy, because you're going and creating something new. And they usually were not things that, I was there for a year, 2 years, 3 years putting in an ERP system. It was like I had to get this done and fixed and running in 3 months or some other
Mhm.
short time frame. Um, so again, I've worked in geospatial projects. I've worked with RFID and building products and demos, 3D printing, installing 3D printing. Each of those individually added up to being something. So I'm not sure I can pick a favorite. I worked with, well, it's interesting to see the evolve over time, the involvement in projects that end up turning into something big. When I worked at Laventhorne Horwath, a consulting firm, I helped them build what was STR, Smith Travel Research, which is the benchmark, data benchmark for the leisure time industry in the hotels and motels. That thing grew and was finally sold by the original founders that spun it off about a year ago for 100, 200 million or something like that. And that's over, well, 30 plus years that it eventually evolved, but grew to be the benchmark in that industry.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's hard to choose, and that's probably good. It's a rewarding career where every project is has its own joys. Yeah, I guess on the flip side, has there been what would you say has been your biggest professional challenge, and how did you overcome it?
I think the professional challenge oftentimes was the mindsets of sometimes um, the leadership groups. And I'm not knocking the bosses per se, but I'm saying in general, it was very difficult. I managed this group, and one of the things that I really I just hated was times for reviews because I had good people, all good people working for me, and everybody expected, the superstar raise. And oftentimes, we were in periods of, raises are, 2 to 4% or something like that. And everybody was wanting more. And how do you work? And the only way you do is you have to try and manage them and make the job itself important. Tell them new ways to move and improve. I think a lot has changed in general in leadership in all organizations now, and that we tend to have less hierarchy and we have more teams that are built on the fly to do and perform projects. And I think that's a better thing, in the total collaboration. So, general, and it depends on, the position you're in and the leadership position that you typically take. I'm more of a coach, uh, less of necessarily the I'll call it the organizer or whatever. If you look at any of my Myers Briggs stuff and all, you'll see that I'm very good at creating and seeing the vision and putting it together. But then if you're going to tell me, okay, you got to make this thing run 365, 24/7. I mean, that's not my job. I got to go do something else. I made it work, and people will care. And you need both types of people in organizations, actually.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's a great answer. Um, yeah, I think thinking of the people who maybe are newer to AFE, and maybe new to the industry, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, before entering the industry, what would it be?
Wow. Uh, First of all, you should be giving yourself advice probably, more frequently than once a year reviews. You
Mhm,
should look introspectively, I guess, at what really you want to do or what you do well. Everybody traditionally has been, again, going back to the leadership thing, has been sort of a linear thing going up. You supervise, then you supervise supervisors, and then you become the grand poobah, CIO or whatever. Today, there are different roles. I guess I was impatient, I guess, at a lot of, I worked 3 4 years at a place, and then at that point it was like, well, this isn't this isn't going anywhere. I see, and I had jumps there. I guess the other big thing I think was important too is I was constantly learning And I would learn by going for certifications. I think certifications in them of themselves aren't necessarily the thing. If somebody has some letters after their name, that doesn't mean they're an expert. Show me what you did also in that space, or tell me what you would do. So I pursued several certifications. Very early on, there was an ICCP, which was a general computer with different sections. You had to know some accounting, and I think we lose that today. We become, even college degrees now are becoming. You're going to become an oil driller specialist or something like that, and that may be fine. I think you have, again, two career paths to think about there. One is you become the expert in something that's very narrow, and there's not a lot of you out there, or you become and work towards becoming, the jack of all trades. Uh, so I like the path that I took. I don't think I'd change it. I would encourage people to go for certifications, not for just the certification itself. And AFE has several of them. And even outside of AFE, you should work with your boss to look at things. If you want to do the leadership path, then you should look at things like the PMP certification. So anyway, those are some of the things, I guess, looking back. I would go and constantly pivot and start to see when things were changing and glide into. So you can do that at one job for your whole career, in facility management. You can become the electrical expert, then the mechanical, and then the plumbing and fixtures. There's so much opportunity, I think, in this space for anybody that wants to get into it. It's a great area.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I guess kind of on that line of certifications, how have you found being a member of AFE has helped you?
Oh, I think the best thing about AFE is really the collaboration and the people. The AFE Ask the Experts group. I wish there was more activity there. I'm not sure if there's lots of lurkers. Don't be a lurker. Get in, jump, add something. I'm sure you read something that just blew your mind today, and tell me about it. Tell me what you saw. Don't be afraid. If you're doing something new, or you have a question. So I guess a lot of that influence and thinking came during that whole group where I was heavily involved with Lotus Notes and Domino and the space at that time. Everything was moving from just pure data and into more unstructured documents and information and workflows. And I think the world we're in now, so I'm very familiar with discussion database. I can tell you about the rise and fall and what works, what doesn't work, and what will happen over time. I can guarantee it, and it's just because of human nature. But I think the collaboration with people, and unfortunately, we've had a dry spell in the physical connections. So there's been some local meetings. I've been to some of the local meetings, but hopefully, I think the best thing is meeting people and talking to people and discussing other ideas. And that's, you got to involve yourself outside the organization. And the best way to do that is through groups like AFE and through the communication mechanisms that they're generating, whether it's an in-person event, whether it's a short webcast that you want to attend. Make time to do that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and speaking of collaboration, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, is there anything in particular you'd like to talk about more with fellow AFE members on the Ask the Experts platform?
Oh, I have a pretty broad, interest and experience level. Some of the topics, first of all, I'll just make a general comment. Don't be overwhelmed by all the groups. And you may see one group that only has 3 people in it. That's okay. That means there's 3 of you special people there that want to talk about that and do that. Others will eventually go and lurk and go into that little corner there. But I will tend to probably post more in a couple areas that I'm most interested in. First of all, any kind of data oriented stuff, AI, robotics, and I've posted some in the robotics area a lot. I'm very interested in STEM. I was encouraged to see that somebody is actually using the AFE material to teach kids. It's a great idea. So I've been
That's
involved
awesome.
with different STEM, with the Future Cities competition and judging that at the local and national level and local things. So IoT, the metaverse is like the next internet thing. And you're seeing pieces. I mean, this is a piece of it. Having video conferencing. We don't have our dancing avatars or anything like that, but you're going to see more of that come, and I think just the textual stuff becomes quick, and it becomes important to go in there. I think frequently and search because somebody may have a problem now that you can solve, and if you can help them now, great. If you wait till the weekend, you might forget about it or next week, and then you have an answer that somebody needs. So I've seen in the collaboration, and thank you for first of all for the recognition of being an active member in there. Wish I had more time. The problem is I'm an active member in several communities and other ones. So, but robotics, IoT, the metaverse, sustainability, STEM, those are all things that I have pretty good solid knowledge on. In fact, one of the things we're doing some interesting stuff at Agile Handover now, and having some special offers. If people are concerned and have silos of data in their FM, they may have their CMMS or whatever may be the center of what they're doing, but they still have information on documents somewhere else. Talk to me. In fact, I'm going to be reaching out individually to people in there, and excuse the intrusion if you don't know me, but make you some offers and talk about a little bit of agile handover, and hopefully that's the way we can connect and maybe generate business and also help. We've done lots of work with high-end institutions, and universities and major facilities with our product and organizing really all the information and integrating it into their different systems. Anyway, enough. End of commercial.
Yeah, well, it sounds like there's a lot to talk about, and hopefully, people viewing this will take you up on the offers to talk about those topics. So, yeah, so thank you so much for sharing with us today, Fran, and for being a part of AFE.
Great. Thank you.